Welcome to SmithWeekly Discussions, an occasional program for our members of SmithWeekly Research. Please note this program is a private discussion and everything contained herein is for entertainment and educational purposes only. With that, we hope you're in a comfortable position, along with your favorite beverage, to enjoy the discussion. We remind our audience to examine our show notes attached to each of our shows to better understand how our program functions. Before we get into our discussion, we want to say thanks for questions coming from our audience at SmithWeekly, including Paul M., Jared W., Todd A., and Mike P. We have a new company and a returning guest on the program today. Dev Randhawa is with us. Dev is the chairman and CEO of Fission 3.0, a uranium-focused exploration company with a portfolio of properties in Canada's Athabasca Basin. Fission 3.0 is listed on the Toronto Venture Exchange under the symbol FUU and also on the US OTC markets under the symbol FISOF. Dev, thanks for coming back on the show. How's life treating you?
Oh, it's great. It's a great time to be in the uranium business. The massive shift in population view and certainly made it a lot more fun to be in versus what we've had for several years.
A few fake outs here over the last 4.5 years or so, Dev.
Oh, yeah.
It's an interesting place where we're at. Current events in the uranium market, Dev, over the last 3 months or so. Do you think this is another potential fake out, or do you think that we're sustaining higher?
Sure, and that's a great question. And I think all of us who been in this space for so long, you wonder that, and whether you're hedging, or the question is whether something's going to happen, or are we going to begin another stronger leg? If you look back at the uranium bull markets, there's always a strong leg. What catches my eye this time differently, obviously, is not just the spot price, but the amount of money that has come into the Sprott fund to buy physical, and that's mind-boggling. So where is this money coming from? It's coming from general fund managers who want to have some money in the space. So what do? They're buying Peter Grosskopf's wonderful idea. Now, as you know, UBC has been around for a while. They've bought it, rebranded it, but they're far more aggressive than the previous group. And so I feel this is different because, and it's the amount of money that's going into this space is mind-boggling. Each day we hear about another country, example is Japan, finally confessing they can't meet their ESG goals without nuclear power being part of that mix, because with 30 nuclear plants not going, they're relying on LNG, which is insane prices. So it's hurting the current deficit, and the amount of pollution they're cranking out is mind-boggling. So I think Japan has said that, and even the last holdout, Germany, has recently said, okay, we need it. And so I think they've realized they failed. Merkel, made some promises. Anybody with a basic calculator, abacus, could have told her it wouldn't work. But they spent almost $800 billion trying to build this green network with wind and air. They're going to build like 3,900 kilometers of this circuit. They did 89 kilometers and kind of stopped. They're realizing that now they have to turn on coal. So I think this energy crunch that's happening, where people are turning on, if you look at some of the prices of coal, it's only October. What happens when winter hits Europe? What's going to happen? So I would say, is this a fake out? I don't think so, because for the first time you're hearing Germany, Japan, the people that are all committed to leaving the space. No, we can't use nuclear, we're going to use renewables. But the problem is renewables aren't baseload power. And so I think the reality is hit, that you can't possibly reach those goals without nuclear power. So I think in that sense, I believe this massive shift in global opinion, and every day you're seeing countries coming on side saying, okay, how do we make it a part of our mix? Which that kind of language never happened in the last cycle. It was entirely a physical issue. I think that was, but I see, so I would say that's a long-winded way of saying, I think, I don't think this is not like the other markets we've had, simply because the amount of money that has gone into the physical fund that Sprott has put in, which has driven up the spot price, which is obviously helping all of us.
The solar and wind experiment's been a joke. It's just an inferior form of energy. I mean, to liken it with the usage of a router on this call and internet connection. If your internet only worked 35, 40, maybe 50% of the time throughout your day,
Yeah,
I mean, you might as well just go to cocktail hour.
exactly.
This is ridiculous. And so also this, pushing a little bit of room for nuclear here. Yeah, we need, nuclear's got to be part of the mix.
Right.
This kind of soft talking. The fact is, nuclear has to be the core, the cornerstone of the mix. It has to be the foundation, and the rest of this is all silliness. And so,
absolutely. I mean, this constant push for electric vehicles. We need to be zero emissions. And today, this morning, United Nations said, "Oh, we can't, no more deforestation." And then I had to say something on Twitter, going, "Hang on." Most people don't realize when they talk about renewables in most countries, they include combustibles, and they'll say it's biomass. It's another way of fancy. It's a big lie. It's burning down trees. They're burning down trees for energy, and they're calling it renewable. So I think it's been I would say wind and air has, one could say nicely, it's been a fairy tale, but it just meant that trillions of dollars have been wasted in handouts to all these companies, friends of the politicians. They sell it to the masses. Oh, we need this, and let's put some more money. We need a green economy. Well, there is no green economy without nuclear. You want electric vehicles, electricity. Where's it going to come from? With cryptocurrencies, where are they? So I think one of the cool ideas, which is seeing some fun and momentum building, is SMR, small modular reactors. Rolls-Royce says they're going to roll it out. Chemicals mentioned it. I do believe that that's the answer moving forward for our industry. Not everybody can build a $5 billion reactor, but they can build a small one. So I think that is the future really for our industry, is so that instead of cryptocurrency companies mining in Greenland for the purpose of energy or wherever it's super cold, they can do it anywhere. And the same thing with some of these offshore plants. It has to be done. It's every day a new plant is being coal plant is being set up in China. So I wish we could all command the sun to crank it up and when for baseload power or the wind, but we can't. So I think it's like you say, it's been a cruel joke, I would say, to tell the masses. And meanwhile, so much money has been wasted on handouts to the solar panel companies, this company, that company. And more importantly, it's not working. So people are now going to coal, which is, I think someone said the so-called screaming of the climate has stopped people from looking at realistic programs. So now people are forced to go to coal. So the very intention was to have less coal, but now you're having more coal. It's the politicians. Politicians want to stay in power, and people love the narrative, not the empirical. So they tell them stuff what they want to hear. But at the end of the day, I'm just glad that money is poured into the fund for Peter Groskopf, and that has led to a higher spot price, which means companies like ourselves now have a future again.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's switch over here to Fission 3.0. Why don't you just give the audience a history here of the company and when you became involved with it?
Sure. Well, Fission 3.0 is called Fission 3.0 because it's our third version. Our background in uranium goes back to 1996, and in 2007, when we started a company called Strathmore Minerals, at the peak of the top, Peter Groskopf, man we just talked about, whose ring we should kiss, he said, look, you've got Canadian US assets, let's spin them off. So we spun off our Canadian assets into Fission Energy. We took that public, and with the help of KEPCO funding the exploration, boom, we were able to make a discovery called the Waterbury or the Triple R deposit, and we sold that to Lucas Lundin. We again split the company or butterfly it and kept the west side of the basin, and we started a company called Fission Uranium. When that, then we merged with somebody else, and we took out all these exploration ideas we had on the west side of the basin, we had kept. We spun those into Fission 3.0. That's why it's called Fission 3.0, because this was the exploration arm. The key here is that the very unique technology that made this discovery for Triple R, and which led to an Arrow, obviously, and Next Gen. What happened was a very smart and brave man who had helped the diamond business folks find garnets along the ground, which led to the kimberlites. Well, he flies an airplane just designed for strictly picking up, sensing what's along the ground. He would literally go treetops. I'm not kidding you. Treetops, and so he could really sense what was along the ground. And he detected these boulders. And so the boulders led to Triple R. So that technology we've used around the basin, trying to find shallow projects that have indications of uranium outcrop or an actual boulder. And so we have, over the bear market, we kept buying properties, collecting them. When people dropped them, we would get them. It cost you nothing. And as a result, we are able to have a very good collection of projects. So the key is that we got these in the bear market when no one was looking. We use the same technology that discovered Triple R, and we got the same technical team. And that's really key, is that the basin is not an easy place to understand. You have to have experience. And thankfully, we've got a team that's made 2 discoveries in the basin, but different types. The Basin Waterbury discovery we had, the Athabasca, in the past looked for what's called the unconformities, where you have sand on top of rock, and where the 2 touch, you call it the unconformity. That's MacArthur, that's Cigar Lake. So we've made one of those called Triple R, so we understand that. But now, when Triple R was very different, it's basement hosted and there's no sandstone at all. So our team has got background in making discoveries in both settings. And these 14 projects, they're in different types. The deal we announced yesterday morning was 2 joint ventures. One is called Hardy Bay. It's more like no sandstone, more like Triple R type of model. And down here, the Lazy Edward LOI will be drilled next summer. It's more of the unconformity model, and with some really fascinating targets there. So we have been able to, as I pick up these deposits all through, and there's little inklings of what's there. And so we're very glad that the market's turned. Red Cloud raised us $8 million. We have money now, plus we've got these joint ventures. So this year, this year, we're at least without any more joint ventures signed, and I think we will do more joint ventures based on the interest level. That, we just added, like I said, 600 grand plus 2.5 million will be spent on the ground, plus we get 15% of the company plus an NSR. So, the interest in the uranium space has led to our model as a project generator model. So now people are coming saying, we want to be in the space, but I need technical help, and I want a property that's hasn't, messed up. So that's what we're able to offer potential clients, is that, an opportunity to make a discovery. And it was really important because a lot of people I know are going to try to find old deposits, 50, 100 million, that weren't mined in any cycle for obvious reasons, but they're going to put lipstick and makeup on them to make them say, oh yeah, but if uranium does this, this is this. You know what? That could be. Those are basically what I call call on the price. They're really a call on the price of uranium, right? If it goes up, their stock goes up. But the real money is made in any cycle on discoveries. I mean, you look take the last 2 examples would be certainly Arrow. Arrow 50, 90 cents, boom, it's $7, right? Now, unfortunately, Arrow's also only gone, Next Gen's only gone from 4 to 7 now, but other companies have tripled and quadrupled because they're looking for more. So if you really want to make money, I believe discoveries matter. Because of that, I think everybody's portfolio in the uranium space should include an exploration company. And why not back somebody who's made 2 discoveries, cashed up, and a strong technical team?
I think the exploration area component of a portfolio is important. There is a lot of projects that will be dusted off, and some of them are meaningful, but a lot of them are those Christmas gifts that nobody likes. You just keep passing it around at the next Christmas, the next party. Do you think you guys are going to basically keep some of the key projects that you see as having the most potential, you and Ross are looking at that, and then possibly the rest of the package goes off in order to help monetize and shore up some of the focus on the other core assets?
Well, that's a great question. You know, PLN is certainly our future project. We've already spent about 14 million on it. It's a very, very large land package, and you know, people have asked us to break it up in 3 parts. We might do that. We actually have a board call about it this week sometime. That's our best project, and we have to spend 4.8 million next year out of our flow through. And now that 2 of our projects that we were going to spend are going to be spent by others, well, now we've got another 2.5 million to spend of our own. So the idea is to absolutely, we know what we have. We're not going to give away any properties, but if someone made us an insane offer, of course, you know, you would look at PLN. But at this point, we wouldn't do, already spent 15 million of our own money, and the results there are as good as anything everybody else has done in the last while. There's, you know, 7 odd meters of 1,500 counts per second. You know, that's bigger than anything I've seen lately. So we know there's smoke, and Ross always says where there's, you gotta, before you find the fire, you gotta find some smoke. And certainly those drill holes, we got 2-3 areas we want to drill. So I mean, we have 14 projects, but they're all, none were, hey, we got nothing else to do on a Friday afternoon, let's stake this. Every one of them have geological reasons of why, you know, and our guys very methodically pick projects. I can go project after project and tell you why this one could be, has the same signature as, you know, MacArthur. This has a signature of Arrow. There's a reason for every one of our projects. So it wasn't we're in the, you know, we were so flush in cash, we just staked whatever we could. No, every one has a significant geological feature and reason as to why we have it. So I won't be surprised if we see 2 or 3 joint ventures. As long as we have a hot uranium market, you'll see a number more joint ventures, but we're not going to give anything away. But our best project is PLN, and we have almost $5 million to spend on it this year. We'll drill it this winter, which means, you know, in the next few weeks, early December, we have to clear the ice to its installation, develop our drill pads with more ice, and drill it again next summer. So, you know, right now there will be almost $8 million worth of drilling minimum next year being done within this company, which is 8 million more than we've done the last couple of years.
And how about the capital structure here as things stand today, Dev? Can you just cover the shares outstanding, the cash on hand at this point, and then of course major holders?
We've Sprott did some of our original fundings when Mr. Rule was active in Carlsbad office. So they have large blocks, insiders. I've got about 5% of the company. I would say we have about roughly 250 million shares outstanding, fully diluted for the most of it. It's a lot of shares out, and we've done financings, and so I think there's going to certainly be, we've got to eat through some of these warrants and stuff, and that's why we're a bit more active marketing wise. But it brings in money, and the warrants are at 15 cents, so it's not like we're, you know, and the stocks, you know. So we have a number of shares out, but I believe that if you still look at the market cap of the company, you know, it's still not that high when you think of the money that's been spent. And more importantly, you know, I call it an asset-rich company with a very strong technical team. And I do believe that discoveries really matter when investors should definitely own one of them. But one thing that, again, it puzzles me is why somebody does joint ventures with a group of people who've never found anything. That still boggles my mind. You know, you would never ask someone to build you a house who's never built one before, but people do joint ventures with people who never found anything. So I do get puzzled. Bull markets are great, but they really do bring out folks that just have absolutely no idea, and they just so desperate to get into space, they do some bad deals with players who've never found anything before.
Yeah, there's been a number of things that have happened over the last few months, and certainly this year, as far as, you know, juniors coming into Athabasca Basin and juniors coming into the U.S. as well.
Yeah.
You mentioned Sprott and yourself, you have a fairly large holding. When you guys did some of this initial financing, I know this was a few years ago, but
Yeah,
where was that price at? Can you just remind the audience where
sure.
you guys own the shares?
Yeah, generally most people own we've done financings with Sprott at 10 cents and recently with Red Cloud at 15. So that's not that far off from 21, 22 cents. And obviously those were bear market times, and the market is what is the market. So you can't just, it is what it is. But obviously you like to have less shares out in a perfect world, but you got to remember that Fission 3.0 is literally a legacy of, I've got friends who owned Strathmore back in 2007 and they giggle because they've got all these shares of 4 different companies. So this is something that in a butterfly situation, you get 1 share of the new company and 1 share of the old company, right? Now, since we split it 3 times, literally people in Strathmore way back in 2007, you look in your account today, you have Energy Fuels, Denison, Fission Uranium, and Fission 3.0. So that's why there's a number of shares out. It's just because we've kept it, 1 for 1, so people it's easy to measure and etc. But yeah, they did their financings when Rick was there, and then recently, like I said, Red Cloud has supported us. Otherwise, we've just done it ourselves. When times are tough, I didn't take any money in the company cash-wise, and neither did many of our people, because we wanted to use the money to keep. You got to pay the lawyers and accountants to stay on, and plus you got to keep buying land. So we put all our money in the ground, and we're lucky to be here. But it's like I said, it's a very different world when somebody can go out there and buy 30 odd million pounds in the open market. I mean, from what I know, like as long as and I think the timing is also seasonality. If you look at chemical stock, okay, look at it seasonality. It always goes up in the fall, and come summer it falls off and then picks up. There's a seasonality to this industry. You combine seasonality, energy crunch. So I'm excited to see what the next 3 to 6 months are going to be like.
Dev, how about where we stand on capital here post the capital raise? If you had to stretch this capital out, would it get you through this time next year? What's your thoughts on maybe the next financing?
Yeah, we have about 9 million, 9.5 million, depending on how many warrants have come in lately. I would say half of that will be hard cash and half is soft. So the soft has to be spent. That's just part of having flow through. So we'll have about 5 million for that will easily take us 2-3 years out, if not more. Again, we still don't have a big staff. We almost got caught short-handed with this bought deal out of nowhere. We only had a part-time bookkeeper and someone who did the books, and I think the total bill for the accounting people were like 3,000, right? And the previous time we had like 4 or 5 people working. So we're fortunate to beef back up. We still have a low overhead relatively, and so I'm happy that I think the 5 million will last quite a while, and that's not including any new fundings. So we have 5 million hard, roughly 5 million soft, and we'll still have, and I think with the warrants still continue to bring in a lot of money. There was 90,000 a couple of weeks ago. So, if that covers more than our overhead, so we're in good shape.
Talk about this traction exploration arrangement and relationship. How'd this come about? Maybe just talk about the background on this, and what do you think of the traction team?
They're good financial people. They're good. They know how to run public companies efficiently. They were brought to us by someone at Sprott and said, look, and they said, these are good guys. And Sprott gave them a lead order for their funding. So I knew they were going to get funded, right? At the end of the day, we manage the project. We pick the holes. Obviously, we have a joint venture group that, will, but really we're the operators. And so their key strength is financial, perfect, right? And I noticed their stock has gone up about 70% today. They were, I think it's TRIC, and they were trading around 55 cents this morning, and the day before they were in the 30s. So they obviously know what they're doing market-wise, and they have got a lead order from Sprott. For us, we're looking for strong financial partners that they'll be straightforward to work with, and we're very fortunate to have that.
You mentioned it just a little bit earlier, Dev. I suspect some of the properties you guys are still open to potential offers on JV or option earn-in type arrangements with the 3.0 portfolio at this point.
Oh yeah, I've got we had a call yesterday out of London, another call today. There's about 6 groups hovering around, but it's not that simple. In the basin, you have to have drilling permits. You have to have, you're ready for ice, seasonality. Sometimes you got to drill in the summer, sometimes in the winter. So it's, it's people want to drill right away. They want this, but it's not that. Athabasca is a tough place compared to drilling for copper in Arizona because of seasonality. So it's not that easy, but our group is well aware of it. Our idea is probably drill PLN is my guess, and nothing changes, and spend lots of money there, but then also take at least $1 million of it and prep 4 to 5 other projects for summer drilling. Geophysics, narrowing down the targets, like Cree Bay. We see a wonderful target based on what Orano next door has done with Forum, and they're getting lots of sniffs, but they haven't hit. We have a feeling it might be on our property, but before we start drilling, we need to do some more fly it again and see what's going on in ground geophysics to narrow down these targets. So you'll probably see us spend, minimum of $600 million just narrowing down targets on 4 of our projects. And they're about 150 to 200 grand to do that kind of thing for each property.
And how about further acquisitions of property, Dev? Anything you're looking at to add at this point in the basin area? And then also let me couple that with any exploration intentions or anything beyond Athabasca in terms of other jurisdictions.
No, we've considered that. I think our strength, stick to your knitting, as they say. We know the basin, and the basin is still the Saudi Arabia of uranium. It's the highest grades in the world. Great government support. With 70 years of uranium, mining there, nobody can see in my backyard. So the grade's number one, politically the right place to be. Infrastructure is there. So it would be hard pressed for us and plus our technical team has done so well, it understands the 2 types of deposits you can get there. Acquisition wise, we stake land, and there's not much because you can do everything online today. It's not the old days, middle of winter, throwing out, flying over a spot and trying to hit it. That's not, so there's very little land actually left. Now, we did grab some land, and I can't say right now, someone dropped it. We have a full team. That's this wonderful lady, Janet. She is on it as soon as something drops, she gets an alert and talks to Ray and Ross, and they take it if they want. But it's within what we're trying to do, absolutely. When you look at the amount of land package we picked up slowly without anybody looking, it's quite mind-boggling. Whether ISO's got some land, we're right there. Whether so-and-so, but we didn't pick it because they're there. We picked it because of our own geological reasons. You got to remember something. It takes a hell of a lot of brains and balls to do what Ray and Ross did, which was Ross and Ray also spent some time in the diamond business, and they realized the way that they found those kimberlites was to be able to do a super crazy thousands of kilometers of exploration very quickly. They would take choppers, airplanes, and go super close to the ground. And I'm talking 15, 20 feet with an airplane, treetops here, okay? And they pick up those garnets, which then they followed them up ice, and they found the kimberlites. Well, it's exactly here. But the amount of courage and brains it took from Ross and Ray and the technical team is significant. You got to, those who have not been in the space realize that when I got in it, people wouldn't even talk to you about the west side of the basin. Everybody believed all the uranium was in the basin we speak today, meaning you can't find uranium unless you've got sandstone. That's Cigar Lake, that's MacArthur. Now shut up and leave the room if you don't understand it. And they'd call you idiot if you brought anything up. I know that. I got friends within Cameco, and guys would say, what are you doing? There's nothing out there. So all kudos to these guys to going, and remember, Triple R is not in the basin. And even Arrow has very little sandstone, okay? Very little compared to 400 meters of sandstone over in Cigar and everything else. So, our guys are smart. They, kudos to them for thinking outside the box. And we found a discovery not in the basin with no sandstone, basement hosted. And everybody said that was impossible, but they did. So these guys are smart, and we give them lots of rope to go out and try different crazy ideas. I trust them, and it's always fascinating to sit with these guys. We did this about 3 weeks ago before I left Kelowna. Got everybody in the room through Zoom. There's 12 of us, right? All talking about giving input and no judgment, just looking at our projects, saying, how would you look at it? So, and that's the kind of thing that people who invest with us need to know. It's not a one-man show or a two-man show. It's a group of people who look at everything differently. And that's what led to the entire West Side, is people like that thinking outside the box. So we won't go outside the basin. We just won't, because it's not our, and we really want to be in the project generator model. We want it to be our mind, our properties, other people's money, okay, for the most part. Now, like you said, it makes sense to take PLN, our big project, and pump 4 or 5 million into it, because that's the closest sniff we have to discovery. And it's only, kilometers away from Arrow, kilometers away from Triple R. It's right there, especially the Brocha Lake project if people want to go online. So that's why we're going to stick where we are. We have the right people who understand it.
Dev, besides looking at potential transactions for some of the non-core properties and of course the upcoming drill program, any other initiatives that you see happening with the company in terms of, say, the next year, maybe objectives you want to complete outside of what I just mentioned by this time next year?
Depending what the market does, if we depend what it's hard to give such a crappy answer, but it really depends what the uranium spot price will be, because spot price determines how much capital comes into our space, and that determines your options, right? So I don't want to say we may not acquire somebody or we may not be acquired. If someone can tell me the spot price at that time, I'll lay out options. But keep in mind, our management team's done a deal with Sumitomo in Japan. We've done a Korea with a utility from Korea, KEPCO. We've dealt with the Chinese Communist central government and done a deal. We sold 2 companies to Lucas Lundin. We're good at deal making, and our ears are always open. At the end of the day, because I've never been given any shares in any of these deals. I've had to buy my own shares. We want to do what's best for our shareholders at all times, and we don't always do it right, but that's our goal. Management and shareholders are aligned, and that's one thing. We don't have a bunch of free shares given to us, and we don't start brand new companies every time we have a new idea. We always stuff anything in the Athabasca comes here, because that's what we know. And that's why like I said, I'm excited, because suddenly there's, we're going to spend next year $7.5 million minimum on our projects. That excites me with our technical team.
Dev, as you know, there's probably 15 or so juniors in the Athabasca Basin competing for investor attention.
Right.
Tell us what makes Fission 3.0 and the strategy of the company a better proposition over the others.
Track record. It all comes down to track record. When you look at making discoveries, in a bear market, we discovered Waterbury, Triple R project, developed it, sold it. At the end of the day, it's people. And I don't know how anybody can say that who has made more, nobody's made 2 discoveries in the basin. Obviously, Lee and the guys did a great job with Mr. Sykes and etc. But really, there's no other technical group that's done what they've done. And that's a lot of it's not to do with leadership of Ross McElroy, who's on our board now, stayed on the board and stepped down because of his commitment to moving forward Triple R with FCU. But it comes down to people and land. You got to have we've got 14 projects. 14, not 2, not 3, 14. And one project is so huge you can split it into 3 or 4 more. So it's a very significant, we're asset rich, technically strong, and now we've got cash. So we're in a good position. But keep in mind, this is exploration, right? This is exploration, and it's risky. And that's why you want to bring in partners to keep down your risk. Very simple question, like Rick Rule always says. You know, Rick is not only funded me, but always, I consider this always him and Eric, I always thought were the 2 smartest investors I've ever met. And it comes down to the people. Have they got a track record? You know, I remember one group trying to get money, and Rick says their record is unblemished with success, meaning they didn't do very well. And so it comes down to track record and having assets. Projects, remember, all our projects are 100% owned, no royalties on them, because we staked everything. We did it all ourselves. So very, very clean projects. We staked every one of these things, which makes me proud as a team, and that we're able to keep these all through the tough times. We're able to keep the projects.
Dev, I appreciate that. And for potential investors who are on the sidelines listening in, market cap of Fission 3.0 stands at about 45 million Canadian. What would you say to them about considering this uranium exploration vehicle at the current price level?
Well, I think I believe there's a strong leg in uranium left. Really, and the last leg is always the longest and goes the furthest. I would say definitely own, you know, a Cameco, another mid team, but have something junior. And if you're going to pick something, if you look at the chart, technically, if it breaks through 24, it can go to 30, 40 quite easily. And there's volume there. It's not like you're going to be stuck, you know, buying 100,000 shares and who do you sell it to? There's lots of liquidity. And we are trying some different marketing ideas to get our name on the shelf space. But we don't, you know, you got to watch doing that. But I just think the uranium space is a place to be. Bet on people who've done it before.
Then the best way for investors to reach out to the company?
So our website, Fission 3.0 Corp. Our symbol is FUU in Canada, and there's a phone number to call in. I know if someone emails me or sends me something on Twitter, I always answer back. But that's easy to see. And there's an interesting piece that came up, by the way. I'll send to you. Dave Talbot put out yesterday morning to his desk at Red Cloud. I consider David Talbot the best uranium analyst out there right now. Nobody touches him. Rob Chang was pretty good, but now he's on the dark side working with companies. But David's very bright, and he just gives a phenomenal explanation about these 2 projects we just joint ventured, why they have such good chances of being hit. And if I get a chance, I'll send it to you. It's a wonderful piece. And we don't pay him for that. He's the one actually, and we look back, that the boulders we found out at Triple R before we made the discovery in our 16th drill hole, he was always talking about it. He goes, where you got boulder trains, man, there's uranium somewhere. We don't know where sometimes, but on Hardy Bay, we've got boulders that were 8% and half the quarter of all the boulders we found. Some are small, some are larger, but they're all high-grade uranium. And we believe that project, for example, is like Talbot says, got a chance, like Triple R. We have to do some, you know, sleuth work to find out where that is. And that's our goal. So I'll send you that one. It's a really good piece. He's someone I really like because he really gets into the detail technically of why something would work.
Well, that sounds good. Let's go ahead and leave it there for now, Dev, and appreciate the time. Good luck at Fission 3.0, sir.
Thank you. Thank you for your time.